And you might start to talk about how much you earn. So the salary thing is definitely a big conversation when you're looking at relationships. But you have to get to a point where you trust the person enough to open up about those things.
Talking about money has been one of the best things in our relationship. We have been able to have a lot of money successes, so
Yeah.
paying off debts, saving money to buy a house, and all sorts. And the foundation for all of that has been having the money conversations.
You're absolutely right. It's so important, I feel, for couples to have the money conversation. Just talk about money. I know, like, a lot of times when the conversation is brought up, it probably starts off from maybe a negative view. So it could start off with one person saying, well, you spend too much money on that, or, well, you should be doing that with money. But if you have the conversation in the right way, it could be really positive and it can be really beautiful for your relationship. So today we're going to give you 3 tips or 3 money conversations that you can have with your partner that will help you have great money conversations together as a couple. First of all, it's important to note that everyone's relationship is at a different stage. So think about it this way. For some people, they're in the early stages, so they're just dating at the moment. For other people, it's become a bit more serious. And then for other people, they're now at the fully committed stage. So now they're really committed to one another. So it's important to note that the money conversation will look different at each one of those stages. So what would you say the first thing is or the first conversation that a couple can have when it comes to their money?
So, the first money conversation that I believe couples should have is about their money beliefs.
Right.
So, this could be things like what you believe about riches and wealth,
Mm.
or right down to what you believe about giving, philanthropy work, giving your money to others in need,
Right.
where you stand on topics like debts, investments, credit cards, and everything like that. And it's really just understanding where your partner stands on those elements. So, one example could be that, say, you believe in giving your money to others in need. So, you give a portion of your money to others, whereas your partner sees that as that's losing money because we could use that money towards something else that we need in the house.
Yeah.
And those two things are two different beliefs in the approach of giving your money to other people. And so understanding your partner's money beliefs would hugely, hugely put you in a position where you understand where they stand and you understand how they feel about money. So when you're having the money conversation later, or you're talking about a budget together,
Right.
you're coming from a place where you understand the way that they view money and the way that they see things.
Absolutely. So one thing that we had to talk about money beliefs was the fact that you were really big on investing, and initially I was not big on investing, right? But this goes back to the way I was brought up, because I was raised in like a single parent household, and you at times we'd struggle to make ends meet. So my mom would struggle to make ends meet. So then once we got married and we got together, I was very much of the understanding that, you know what, hold on to it. Hold on to it. Security is very important to me and stuff like that. But it took us having that conversation about money beliefs for me to then understand that actually, when you invest the money, you will potentially see a return on it. So it's not exactly losing it. But for me, I wanted to see it in an account. It's very different when it's in the account and it's sitting there and you can see it. It's sort of like it's there. I know it's there, but it's very different when you invest it. It was very different for me anyway, when we're investing it, because then I was like, oh, are we losing it? But it's not like that. So I think I completely agree with you that the conversation needs to be had. That way you can try and support each other and work together to then get on the same page. So the second conversation that you can have as a couple is around your money journey. That will look different for the both of you. So the way that I was brought up is very different to the way that you were brought up. So money was dealt with in a different way for the both of us. So it's important to have those conversations about how money was dealt with in the household whilst we were growing up. And it's important to also have the conversation of what did your parents teach you, or what did you learn, or what did your carers teach you about money whilst you were growing up? Because for some, the conversations were had, but for other people, the conversation around money was lacking in the household. So it's then taught people to then have to learn things for themselves. But it's important to have these conversations and understand where each of you are coming from in terms of your upbringing and money. I'd also say that the other thing that is important to talk about is money successes as well as money mistakes that have been made along the way. Because for some, successes may look like, well, I managed to pay off my overdraft before we got into this relationship. For others, it may be, well, I managed to save this amount of money before we got into this relationship. But also talk about the mistakes that you've made with money, because these are the things that then influence the way you deal with money now or the way that you deal with money in the relationship.
The third money conversation that we believe couples should have is to do with your financial goals. Talking about your financial goals with your partner is a great way to have a money conversation with them.
Right.
The reason why this is powerful is because when you talk about your financial goals, you're inviting your partner into your personal world because goals are very personal. If I have a goal to increase my salary or to save a certain amount of money, that's a very personal thing.
Right.
And if I'm sharing that with my partner, that's inviting them into a world that's very personal and connecting with them in another way that we haven't connected to before. But another reason why this is great as well is because your partner can give you some ideas. They can chip in and say, oh, actually, well, when I've done this, I did it this way and did it
Right.
that way. And that could actually help you reach your goal faster or better.
Yeah.
But then the more powerful reason of why talking about financial goals with your partner is important is because you may actually end up developing shared goals.
Right.
Having a shared goal with your partner is so powerful. Like there is nothing like the two of you working together to achieve a shared ambition.
Yeah.
Now we understand that in when we're doing a coursework in university or when we're doing a project at work, but this is the same thing when you're talking about money in your relationship. When you're both working towards the same financial goal, it's so powerful because you can be each other's accountability
Yeah.
partner, each other's hype man.
Yeah.
You can sort of encourage each other along the way and help each other when the going gets tough, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that talking about your financial goals with your partner is such a strong conversation to have together.
Yeah, and I agree. Like 2 points that you really touched on that I think are so, so important. The support and the accountability side of things is it's unmatched when you do it together as a couple because yes, you will keep each other accountable when you're slacking or when you feel like, you know what, I can't do it this time. That accountability is amazing. But then on the flip side, when you talk about support, I'm pretty sure we all love to be supported in everything that we do. And it's amazing because you've got that person that's there to hold your hand, that's there to support you, that's there to do it with you. So that accountability and support is so important when it comes to your shared goals or your individual goals.
Okay, so those are the three money conversations that we believe you should have. But we did promise you our top tip.
Right.
What is our top tip for couples to have the money conversation?
So, one of the things that really, really, really works for us is going on a walk and talking about our finances. And I think for us, the reason why this really does work is the fact that when you're out on a walk, there's less distractions. You can imagine when you're having that money conversation in the house, it's very easy to switch off when someone says something you don't want to hear, or it's very easy to get distracted whilst they're talking. Maybe you pick up your phone, you look at something you shouldn't be looking at. But outside, there's really limited distractions because you're just walking, you're in that atmosphere, you're in that mood to have that conversation. And we've had some of the best money discussions whilst we've been out for walks.
Yeah, and that is our top tip because honestly, it is a game changer. Because, like we said in the beginning, talking about money sometimes ends up being a negative
Yeah.
conversation where it's finger pointing, it's a lot of blaming. And when you're going for a walk, the walk itself is very relaxing.
Yeah.
The environment is very friendly. So when you're now bringing in money into that walk, the conversation of money that conversation is in an environment that's going to keep it relaxed and keep it
Yeah.
friendly. And hopefully it'll be a conversation that will be very fruitful for you as it has been for us. So earlier on, we mentioned that there's 3 stages to a relationship.
Right.
And those stages of the relationship will influence the kind of money conversation you're going to have. So if you're still in the early stages, dating or getting to know each other, whatever title you want to give it, the conversation will look kind of different. And at this point, you might not be comfortable yet to have really personal conversations. So instead, here's some ideas for you to have the conversation, which would be still be about money, but not personal. So one example could be you talk about the money books you've read,
Right.
right? Or the things you've learned from looking at money books or following people who talk about money on social media, etc. Because that's not personal to do with your personal finances, but it's just about financial education in general. The second thing you might be able to talk about if you're still in the early stages of getting to know each other might be how much you think is appropriate to spend on a holiday or buying a new car.
Right.
Again, these are to do with your money beliefs, but they're not necessarily about how much you've personally spent on a new car or
Yeah.
holiday, because you're not talking about your personal journey yet. You're just talking about what you believe in general.
So the second relationship stage is when things start to get serious. So at this point, the conversation will definitely look a bit different because you're now talking about things that are more personal to you. So you might have conversations about how much money you've saved over the last couple of years, for example, and you might start to talk about how much you earn. So the salary thing is definitely a big conversation when you're looking at relationships, but you have to get to a point where you trust the person enough to open up about those things, so the conversation is a lot more personal. And you may start to talk about debts, for example. The debt conversation is not an easy one, so you have to get to a point where you trust the person to even start opening up about debts. But because you're now at a level where there is a lot more trust, there's a lot more openness, you are able to have more personal conversations about money.
The third relationship stage is where you have made a lifelong commitment to be together.
Right.
The conversation here will again look very different to the previous ones. So, coming back to the third money conversation, which is about your financial goals, at this stage, you might want to then look at how do we build shared financial goals together that fit our lifelong commitment together. So, for example, it might look like, well, could we combine our finances when we
Right.
move together? Or it might be, should we buy a house together?
Right.
Because these are the kinds of things that you might then start to look at in terms of shared financial goals. And this is how the money conversation will look very different based on the relationship stage that you're in. Of course, this is subjective. You might be early stages and still be very comfortable talking about your
Right.
credit scores. Who are we to stop you from doing that?
Yeah.
In fact, we would encourage it. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's comfortable for you and what works for you in your relationship.
So, in closing, don't be surprised if you have a difference of opinion when you're having some of those conversations. It's normal. You are two different individuals at the end of the day, but what you're striving for is to be able to work together when it comes to your finances. So, we hope this conversation that we've had today has encouraged you and your partner to actually take action and have these money conversations. And you can do that however you see fit. You can schedule some time together to have the conversation, or you can take a walk, like our tip from today. Take the walk, have the conversations, and build that relationship where you can work together as a couple.